Hi, my name's Amanda D, and today I'm going to talk about diastasis. Now, diastasis is a separation of the rectus abdominals by the linea alba, which is a connective tissue in the center. This tends to happen after women have been pregnant. So as the belly grows, the baby grows, there's a lot of pressure that's put on the abdominal wall and against these muscles, and hence then the muscles separate. So if you're not sure if you have this or not, it's a good thing to check, especially if you've had a baby. You can lie down onto your back. And then you're going to bend your knees with your feet onto the floor and just take your two fingers. You're going to bring the two fingers just above the navel into that kind of separation. You may even be able to feel it now between both sides of the rectus abdominal muscles, which we know as the six-pack muscles right in the front. All you're going to do is you're going to lift your head up, but keep your chin away from your throat, and just notice if you can feel like a little kind of gully just above the navel there. Now, if you do have diastasis, you should be able to fit two fingers width going sideways into that gully. If it's only one finger width, then that's normal. That's not diastasis. But if you can fit two or three or even bigger than that, then that would indicate that you have diastasis. Now, what I want you to do is to keep doing that. Move up a little bit higher, and then again lift your head. And notice, is it one, two, or three fingers or more width, kind of the riverbed. And keep going all the way up to just the rib area. So now that you've felt that, if you did feel that the gully between both sides of the rectus abdominal muscles was more than two finger widths apart, then this is an indication, like I mentioned, that you may have diastasis. Now, you can definitely check this with a doctor as well if you want to be completely sure. So the worst thing that you can do if you have diastasis is to do crunches or any kind of muscular work that's going to overwork the rectus abdominal muscles. Now, I myself have had a baby and I do not have this problem. My baby was very, very big, but I think that is because I was working my transverse abdominal muscles, which are the deeper corset muscles underneath these muscles, and also having strong obliques to the side. So I had more support. Sometimes you can have a really, really strong rectus abdominal muscles, but as the baby grows, there needs to be some softening in the front so that both halves don't separate. So you might think, oh, well, I had a really, really strong rectus abdominal muscles, but again, you still can have diastasis just because maybe these rectus abdominal muscles, these corset, not the corset muscles, the six-pack abs in the front were too strong, and you didn't have that deeper underneath support of the transverse abdominals, which is the corset muscles that wrap around the front and around the sides, and then connected in the back with connective tissue. So it's like a corset. So while you're in a yoga class, maybe the teacher teaches crunches or something like this. This can happen during yoga. So there's some things that you can do instead of doing that. So just so you know what crunches are, it's doing this kind of work where you hold onto your head and you press your lower back down, and then you're lifting up like this. Okay. So these are the things you want to avoid. So I'm going to just teach you how to engage your transverse abdominals using breath. So you're going to take your arms up alongside your ears. This is going to keep the chest lifted so you don't end up pushing down with these lower ribs down towards the abdomen. You're going to take a deep breath in. And then all I want you to do is expel all the air out of the mouth. Keep going, keep exhaling until you have nothing left. And then look in this area. So you see that this kind of vacuum that happened in my belly. So I expelled all the air out of my mouth until I had nothing left. So I was completely empty of breath. And then keeping my arms up, this helped to keep my chest lifted. And then I thought about just the area below the navel, sucking in and pulling it upwards. So just this area below the navel, sucking in and pulling it upwards. So I'll show you that again. So you'll see I've got my natural lumbar curve. I'm not flattening out my lower back because that's going to can over-engage the rectus abdominal muscles. So natural lumbar curve, but my lower ribs are on the floor, so I'm not overarching. Another way you can check that you're not overarching is just to make sure that your hip points and your pubis are parallel to the floor. And that will be neutral pelvis. And you'll take a deep breath in. And you exhale. Exhale, 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 exhale. Keep exhaling until there's nothing left. Hold the breath out, so don't let the breath come in. And then draw the lowest part of your navel in and up while keeping your chest lifted. And then you should feel this vacuum happen as the navel sucks in and up. And then release that. So you can do that a few times until your body completely understands the action of this area from the hip points to the pubis, kind of sucking in and pulling up. Once you have that, you'll be able to do that while breathing. So you won't need to create that vacuum. You won't need to exhale completely out. You'll be able to access the muscles themselves. You've awakened these muscles, and so they understand what they need to do. So again, you're going to see that I'm not flattening out my lumbar curve. I'm keeping my natural lumbar curve, the top of the sacrum bone off the floor, but the back of my lower ribs down. Now from there, I'm going to breathe into my side ribs, into kind of a horizontal expansion. And this is going to activate my diaphragmatic breath. So I think I'm breathing sideways like I have gills. And every time I breathe, I lift my chest. I keep the back of my lower ribs down and my natural lumbar curve. Now see if you can pull that area in of the lower belly, suction it in and up. You should feel that same kind of feeling you had before. So there's kind of like a vacuum in the body, but you're still able to breathe into the side ribs, into the horizontal expansion. Again, once you're able to do that with breath, suction the lowest part of the navel in and up without driving the lower ribs down like this, then you'll be able to do movement while keeping hold of that. So the first one that I suggest is to bring your knees. So first of all, before you actually lift the legs, find the natural lumbar curve, keep the lower ribs down, and then suction the lowest part of the belly in and up, keeping the chest lifted. Now, take your knees up over your hips. Keep pressing the back of the lower ribs down, so you're not overarching. You shouldn't feel this in the back. Stay here. You can touch the lowest part of your belly and just to check that it's engaged. It should feel toned under your fingers. Now, if this is quite easy for you and you don't feel like you've got kind of this bulging mountain sticking out, you feel instead like the vacuum in, the belly going in and down in the lowest part of the belly. Maybe you can bring movement of the legs, tapping your right toes to the floor, then lifting them up, and then the left toes. Now your aim is to not let the pelvis move at all, so you're super stable in the pelvis. I'm still pulling the lowest part of my belly in, and I'm breathing into my side ribs. Keep the knees over the plumb line of your hips. Again, you feel this mountain, this kind of tube lifting up through the middle of your belly, then it means that you've lost those transverse abdominal muscles. And if that's the case, then just come back to the first exercise we did, just solely doing the breath, or keeping the knees over the hips and not tapping the toes. Eventually, of course, you can build this up to 2 toe taps, but again, this all goes in order. So you never feel this bulging up of the middle of the belly there. You still feel those transverse abdominis muscles pulling in, down and up. Just rest that for a moment. Now, another exercise that you can do is you can take a block in between your legs, and then just by squeezing the block, it's going to help you to engage your pelvic floor muscles. So imagine the pelvic floor muscles from the front of the pubis all the way back to the anal sphincter, and from sitting bone to sitting bone. So those bones that you sit on when you're sitting on the floor. So I like to call them your sitting bone, but it's sits bones. So it's like a diamond shape, and you want to feel from the anal sphincter to the front of the pubis, pulling into the midline, and the sit bone to sit bone pulling into the midline and up. And as you do that, squeezing your block, it should be even easier to pull that lowest part of your belly in, down and up, but while maintaining your natural lumbar curve and while keeping the chest lifted. Now, another exercise that you can do, this again, it's a little bit more advanced once you've mastered this work of the transverse abdominis and the pelvic floor muscles. Maybe you can hold the pelvic floor muscles for 1 minute and just hold them contracted 100% and then relax. And then you can do it again, but hold in the contraction of the pelvic floor muscles for 50% and then relax. And then try to hold the pelvic floor muscles, squeezing into the midline and up for 25% of their contraction. And then you can also practice that with the transverse abdominis. You can pull the muscles in and up, hold for 1 minute, then release. And then you can do that again, pull in and up, but try and only hold now 50% of the contraction for 1 minute. And then put that together, lifting the pelvic floor muscles to 50% and the transverse abdominal muscles suctioning in and up. Now, another exercise that you can do, which will be for the obliques, is squeezing your block. Have your arms out to a T-shape with your palms face down. And then just letting the knees go to the right while keeping your left shoulder on the floor. And then coming back to center. So this works the oblique. Squeeze your block, going over to the left, keeping the right shoulder down. And then you'll do that a few times. To advance this practice, you can stay longer on one side, and then you can extend that top leg out. Once you get super, super strong at this, maybe you can do both legs. Squeeze your block, suction the lowest part of your navel in, so you're still doing those 2 actions. And then you'll come to the center, and then you can go to the other side. Again, just staying here if you're newer to the practice, or eventually maybe extending the top leg, or if you're feeling super advanced and you've completely mastered lifting the pelvic floor muscles while suctioning the navel in and up, you can extend both. Okay, so there's some things that you can work on when they're doing a rectus abdominal working class. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.